Okay, I got it. Yeah. So what do you want me to talk about? Oh, you know, people like I'm learning, or I realize that people have we as people have a warped sense of thinking. The black, the white, Puerto Rico, whatever. It's how you were raised, and then you grow up, and then it's like, okay. And then what I see, I grew up in Bridgeport. I went to Barnum School. There were two black kids. They had two classes, first to the eighth. Two black kids in each class. I'm one of the black, and they had another girl. Her name was Lorna, and then they had Billy Boy and Calvin. So one year it would be Billy Boy, one year it would be Calvin, and then for 8 years, and they were primarily white with Puerto Ricans, and I got a numb sense of who people were. They were just people. We all got along. If there was a party, everybody went. There was a two times. There was one girl. Her name was Jeanette, and they called her Stinky Jeanette. But she was my friend, and I wouldn't let them do it. Well, I went to her house. Her house was kind of tough. Mine wasn't great, but hey. And she gave our family our first puppy. His name was Rusty. And I loved her for that. She was just a kid, a white kid. My parents never thought or taught us there was a black and white. They grew up in that, but when they got to Connecticut, the subject was never discussed. Just live. All you had to do was live. And so now, when I see the struggles that people have of being black and white, I don't understand it. Because to me, it's not that important. You are a person. People do crazy things. White, black, Puerto Rican, Chinese. Everybody does stuff different, But you gotta, if I can love me, I can love you. That's all I know. That's all I understand about life. Loving you makes me love me. And me is important. And we gotta learn that. All I think about is my children. Randy, he this week, he was having a glorious time with God, because what happened was, and not to say everything, but he was having a down moment of, "Ma, I'm all the way here in California." He told me, he said, "Ma, I looked at my account. I have $43, and something came through the overdraft, and I was like, wow." And I had $2. And he said all I could do was smile, because I knew God was up to something. And guess who showed up? God. And then something else came through, and my life, my money funny. Like, it's not hilarious, but my money funny too. So I did what I could, and then God showed up again. And this time, when God showed up, all Randy could do was cry. He said, "Ma, I, I'm not unhappy. I'm just telling you, God is good." And I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful. I had promised, for those that don't know, Randy was a crack baby. But guess what? Again, God showed up. He weighed 7 pounds, 14 ounces, and was 22 inches long. That's the biggest crack baby anybody ever seen. And right now, He lives in California. He's on his own, you know, and he's living his best life. And it's a little hard because he gets, lonely. And, I have to tell him something. You're not lonely. You just don't have anybody. But God's going to bring somebody. When you feel all that loneliness, come on now. It's okay. Because that's opening it up the windows. Part of the windows of God bringing somebody to you. But anywho, Randy's doing fine. And he has a couple dollars in his account. Because after that, God showed up again. And I'm going to call her his aunt, send him some money. And he cried again. He's such a crybaby. I said, you are so sensitive. But he says, like, Ma, you don't know. Yes, I do know. The power of God and the things that he can do for you. And sometimes it gets overwhelming. As I said, we have the Sama. He was down at one time. But then God shows up because he believes. And the thing is, I'm talking about his birth, the 9 months that I was doing my drug thing, but I was praying. There's a song that says, when she goes in the room, you don't know what she's doing. But as I was being a drug addict, I was praying to God to help me because my addiction had power over me. And I was like, God, help my baby. I can't right now. Please make him strong. I named Randy before he was born. And I would say, Randy, be strong because your mama can't. And as I said, he weighed 7 pounds, 14 ounces, and 22 inches long. The only thing that was a little different was when he was born, it was in 92, and that was the time they were taking babies. And my heart was so broken because I did drugs all day in between praying. And the morning he was born, I was crying because I was like, they're going to take my baby. They're going to take my baby. And the nurses, they were all angels. And each one would come and say, don't worry, it'll be all right. And I would say, no, you don't know. And the midwife, because I had it at had him at St. Vincent, she was nowhere to be found. But anyway, they kept saying, don't worry. And guess what? They were right. And the funny part was the doctor finally came and released him and me. And she said, well, because she knew he got a big head. I said, what? She said, well, he'll grow into it. He did. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Benny. But you know what I'm saying? It's stuff like that when you're at your last and God just shows up. And at that time, as I said, they were taking babies. But 3 days after he was born, I left. They took us out. I mean, they discharged us. And the thing, I didn't even have a place to go in reality. I didn't have my own apartment. I was displaced. However, God being God, my daughter had an apartment which she didn't live in. So I went there. And even God was covering me then. DCF was in my life. And I don't even know the man's name. But whoever he is or wherever he is, God bless him. Because I would call him. He'd call me like, how you doing? And one day I said, it's hard. He said, don't worry about it. You'll be okay. And it it lasted, and my clean date is June 27th, 2000. I mean 1992. That I claimed, it was a couple of days within there that I haven't gotten high, and after I did get clean, thank God for Project Courage, and I was the, and by the way, I was the first one that finished for Project Courage. Yeah, they didn't get my certificate until 5 years. I had to tell them, look, somebody got it, because I go a year and they go, you got to go 6 more months. And then I go on 6 months, or you got to go another 6 months. I'm like, wait a minute. Somebody got to graduate. So they graduated me, and I was the first one. And, I'm just, when I look back to, where I am today, I thank God more than ever. And I ask you, wherever you're going through, trust God. There's no reason not to. You did everything else. So did I. So when the time comes, learn to trust Him. Obey His word. Some things you just can't do. Now, my cameraman keeps giving me these fingers, telling me I gotta do this, he just said I got 60 seconds. Like I know what 60 seconds is. And now I got 1 minute or 1 second. I don't know.
1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay, whatever. What can I do with 1 minute? Well, I thank you for allowing me to be a part of your life today, for listening. And again, I need you to share, subscribe, and like on YouTube. And this way, we all come together as one. And, I just thank you. How many more seconds I got? I got to work with him. Okay. I'm done. I guess I'm done, right? He's still messing with me. Is it finished? Oh, I got to say something. Glory. That's all I know. And trust God. Go ahead.
Amen.
Amen. I don't know when it's over. We're working on it. So now it's over? He's still playing with it. I don't know. Y'all just pray.
We're done.
We're done now?
Yeah.
That's what he's always saying. You done. We're done. We shouldn't have did that because you went too long.